Welcome boys. Today I am going to start with again Macbeth. Here we will get all the clear information about Macbeth. If you read the text and if you read the text and listen to my lecture, definitely you will get the same information that you will get after reading the text. Okay, so just I am going to start by paragraph wise. Listen to me. In the first paragraph, okay, just listen. Duncan was the ruling king of Scotland, and he had his relative Macbeth, the Thane of Glamis. Okay, at court of Duncan, Macbeth held a high position for his valor and good conduct in warfare. Recently, Macbeth had defeated a rebel army that was assisted by the troops of Norway. Okay, the king Duncan has appointed Macbeth and Banquo in order to defeat the Norwegian rebel army. Okay, and both the Scottish general had defeated them bravely. Okay, in the second paragraph, the two Scottish generals, Macbeth and Banquo, were returning when the battle was over. On their way back, they met three unearthly figures. Okay, which three unearthly creatures which were called by Macbeth as witches, and by Banquo ministers of darkness. Okay, and they have all quality of the women, but there was some exception. The exception that they were bearing a kind of beard. Okay, that made them you can say exceptional from the woman's quality. Listen. Okay, the first witch saluted Macbeth with the title of Thane of Glamis. Okay, and the second witch addressed Macbeth as the Thane of Cawdor, and the third witch said that Macbeth would be the future king of Scotland. Okay, but all the three witches for Banquo said that the sons of Banquo would be the king of Scotland. After Macbeth. Okay, and after that, the witches first converted into thin air, and after that they vanished into the air. And when they vanished into the air, after that they able to realize that three only unearthly creatures were witches. Okay, so come to the next paragraph, that is third. At the time, a certain messengers from the king arrived and said that Macbeth would be the Thane of Cawdor. It happened so miraculously that Macbeth was very much surprised. Macbeth was very much amazed with this news that he had been appointed as a Thane of Cawdor. Next was hopes began to swell in his heart, in Macbeth's heart, to be the king of Scotland. Okay, turning to the Banquo, Macbeth asked him if he hoped his sons would be the kings in future. Then Banquo replied Macbeth that the witches used to tell some truths, to cheat, to misguide people, to do such deeds of sorrowful consequences. Here there is a term that is called ambiguity. And ambiguity, that means what? There is a single sentence, but it has two different meanings from different point of view. Same ambiguity has been used by the witches in order to misguide Macbeth, okay, which has been observed and clearly noticed by Banquo, not by the Macbeth. Okay, next in the fourth paragraph we will study, however, the prophecies of the witches had sunk too deep into the mind of Macbeth. In this situation, Macbeth sent a letter to Lady Macbeth communicating the prophecy of the witches and its partial fulfillment. Okay, it means what? Macbeth had communicated with the Lady Macbeth through a letter with the help of messenger who has come to appoint him as a Thane of Cawdor. Okay, on behalf of Duncan. Lady Macbeth was an extremely ambitious woman. She encouraged Macbeth to murder the king for the fulfillment of prophecies of the witches. Okay, listen. In the next paragraph, it happened that King Duncan came to visit Macbeth's castle. Macbeth's castle along with his two sons, Malcolm and Donalbain, in order to congratulate him for his triumph against the rebel army that we already read that rebel army was assisted by the troops of Norway. Lady Macbeth received the king with smiles and charming etiquette. Tired of long journey, the king went early to bed. In the midnight, Lady Macbeth woke up to plot the murder of the king. She knew that her husband was ambitious, so she herself took a dagger, a kind of knife, okay, and approached the king's chamber where Duncan was sleeping, we can say, okay. But the fact that king's face reminded Lady Macbeth of her own affectionate father, and for that reason she could not proceed further. It means that the face of Duncan very much resembles to the face of Lady Macbeth's father. That is why Lady Macbeth fell to murder the King Duncan. Okay. After that, she returned and convinced Macbeth to murder the King Duncan. So Macbeth took the dagger in his hand and stealthily entered into the dark room where Duncan was sleeping. He killed with one stroke of his dagger. Okay. After that, he returned to his wife and told her about his misdeed. Meanwhile, she took the dagger. Lady Macbeth took the dagger from the hand of Macbeth to stand the cheeks of the sleeping guards with blood in order to appear them guilty. After that, next morning, the murder of the king was discovered. Macbeth and his wife showed their utmost grief, and the evidence of the murder was sufficiently strong against the guards. But people suspected Macbeth on the ground of motive. Malcolm and Donalbain still took Macbeth for suspect and afraid of their safety. Duncan's two sons fled immediately. They immediately left the palace, okay, in order to save their life. Malcolm, the elder son, sought shelter in the English court, while Donalbain, the younger son, sought shelter in the Ireland. Okay, with the death of Duncan, the throne being vacated and the sons being unavailable, Macbeth was crowned the King of Scotland. Thus, the prediction of third witch also became literally true. After that, however, King Macbeth and his queen could not forget the warning of the witches that the sons of Banquo would be the king after Macbeth. Okay. So they decided to kill his son. That means Banquo's son, Fleance. For this, they arranged a banquet, a party, and invited all the chieftains along with Banquo and his son Fleance. Macbeth had appointed some assassinators, some murderers to kill Banquo and his son on the way. Supposed to Banquo and Fleance might come. The assassins killed Banquo, but Fleance managed to escape. Meanwhile, Macbeth and his wife played the role of perfect host with graceful manners. And no sooner did Macbeth express his sorrows for the absence of Banquo, he saw the ghost of Banquo occupying the seat reserved for him. For him, that means for Macbeth. Okay, at this horrible sight, his cheeks, that means Macbeth's cheeks became white with fear and he lost his mental balance. Okay, he addressed the ghost with destructive words, fearing the dreadful secret would be disclosed. Lady Macbeth dismissed the guest in great haste. After that, since then Macbeth and his wife had their sleeps affected with terrible dreams, and Banquo's murder haunted them as much as the escape of Fleance, who was regarded as father to a line of kings. When their peace was thus disturbed, Macbeth decided to visit the three witches once more to know his final fate. The witches saw Macbeth three spirits. Okay, these three spirits reveal Macbeth. These three spirits reveal to Macbeth three prophecies. These are the three prophecies. Three prophecies regarding his future. The first spirit looked like an armed head, called Macbeth by name and told him, "Be aware of Macbeth, the Thine of Five." The second spirit arose in the likeness of a bloody child and told Macbeth that he has no fear of death from any man born naturally of a woman's womb. And the third spirit, a child with branch of a tree in his hand, and told Macbeth that he would not be defeated until the forest of Bernam moved to Dunsinane Hill. These are the prophecies that are said by three spirits, okay, who were called by the three witches. After that, the witches also saw Macbeth, a procession of kings followed by Banquo. returning from the spirit's cave, returning from the spirits. Okay, he learned that means Macbeth learned that Macduff has fled to England. Macduff, Thine of Five. Macduff, Thine of Five has fled to England to join Malcolm's army. Okay, in order to defeat Macbeth. In fit of rage, in fit of anger, okay, Macbeth brutally slaughtered Lady Macduff and his son boy. Okay, from this tyrant, from this cruel deed, from this cruel activity, okay, everybody in the Scotland began to hate Macbeth because of these cruel deeds of Macbeth. People no longer love or honor to Macbeth. All the people of Scotland began to hate Macbeth. Okay, they have no love and honor for the Macbeth. Okay, meanwhile the queen, that means the lady Macbeth, who had been the prime partner in his that means in Macbeth's all the misdeeds, okay, on whose bosom he could sometime seek a momentary repose, he could seek some rest, committed suicide because she was unable to bear the remorse, bear the hatred of the people. Okay, you can say public hatred. Okay, Macbeth was after the death of Lady Macbeth was left alone. He grew careless of his life, okay, and longed for and wished for death. On hearing that Malcolm's army was approaching, he wished to die in the battlefield. When Macbeth heard from his messenger that the Malcolm's army is approaching to Macbeth's castle in order to defeat him, he wished to die in the battlefield. Finally, one day a messenger reported to the lone king, to the deserted king, that he had seen Birnam Wood moving. Birnam Wood began to move. Actually, the Birnam Wood was not moving. Okay. Actually, the army of Malcolm was advancing through the woods of Birnam. Malcolm has instructed his each and every soldier just to hew down, just to cut down Birnam woods while they were advancing towards Macbeth's castle. Okay, so Malcolm instructed each of his soldiers to hew down a bug and bear it before him to hide the actual number of soldiers. Macbeth then remembered the words of the third spirit. Okay, the third spirit, a child with a branch of tree in his hand, told Macbeth that he would not be defeated until the forest of Birnam moved to Dunsinane Hill. Okay, and Macbeth lost his confidence. Okay, and finally Macbeth wished to die in the battlefield. You know, in the very last paragraph, a fierce battle took place in which Macbeth slaughtered all those who challenged him until he faced Macduff. You know, Macduff, Thine of Five. Okay, when Macbeth met Macduff, he wanted to turn back. Okay, but Macduff opposed his turning. Macbeth told Macduff very proudly that he had no fear of death. He had no fear of death from any man born naturally of a woman's womb. It means that the person who had taken a kind of magical birth can kill me, can defeat me. Okay. At this, Macbeth declared that he was not born of a woman in natural way, but untimely taken out from his mother's womb. Macbeth lost his last hope. Macbeth lost his last hope. Okay, he then refused to fight against Macduff, but Macduff called him a villain. Okay, a cruel man. Okay, abusing his family. No, you can say Macduff called him a villain, abusing him for brutally slaughtering his wife and children, and challenged him for fight. After a violent fight, Macduff defeated Macbeth and severed his head and presented it to the young and lawful King Malcolm, the eldest son of Duncan. In this way, Macbeth met a tragic end. Boys, this is the detailed summary of Macbeth. Hope you have enjoyed, and I request all of you just to listen it carefully. If you listen it, definitely you will get all the information that is necessary for the Macbeth. And one thing I want to suggest you, suppose that if you want to get some answers, some paraphrase of the poetry, first you have to download Google app. After that, Google Classroom, not Google app, Google Classroom, where you have to type the code, that is VXKT6R. This is the Google Classroom code. Okay, and after giving this code, you will get all the informations that is important for you in class 11 in English subject. Thank you, boys.